Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today I've got with me at CSW Dallas, Justin Leingang. He is from LJ Play and he's going to talk about his game, Warline, which was on Kickstarter, and he's still looking to try to get it out there in the published space for you guys in the war game as well as the Euro game space. Justin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. So let's talk about Warline. It is, first off, I'm going to tell you something right now. I've seen a lot of prototypes. I've never seen a prototype in my life like this game, and this is not a word of a lie. I'll post some pictures for you guys to see. This thing looks like a fully published game. Justin, you did an amazing job on this.
Thank you.
That really, to me, speaks volumes to your development process and the pride you're taking in this game, and that's why I think when you get it published and everyone's able to get it on their table, you're gonna have a really fantastic product.
Excellent. Yeah. I hope that's what it would accomplish.
So talk about Warline. What is Warline, and where's the hook?
So Warline, I call it a maneuver warfare sandbox game.
Mm-hmm.
So the core itself is modeled on Boyd's theory of maneuver warfare.
Okay.
So my goal with the game was to give players a wealth of tools that allows them to explore all sides of the contentious maneuver warfare argument. Like, to me, it's a very interesting argument to see hundreds of years worth of doctrine trying to be toppled and overthrown by one camp, and the resistance and how that actually could benefit the military, whether or not it would benefit the military. So I was developing the game to give players the tools to explore those sides, so you can explore, is maneuver more effective than attrition, or vice versa, or is it some balance, or is it situational?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really fluid tools that allow you to explore that in like I said, a sandboxy manner.
Sure.
So that's the heart of the game. It's expressed through fantasy instead of a historical setting. The biggest decision that's personal to me for the gameplay is fantasy, so that I could exaggerate some of the principles, so it's easier to feel why this part of maneuver would be so effective. So it's not like a nuance, but it's an actual exaggerated expression of it.
Sure. Plus you also get, if you do that in anything that's a historical setting, there's always going to be somebody that's going to say that's not exactly how that works, right? But when it's fantasy setting, you can do whatever you want, and you have a lot more latitude to explore things, which is great for you as well as the gamer.
And it allows you as a gamer to focus more on the doctrine and the execution of the doctrine, the maneuver warfare theory, than on the historical minutia, right?
Sure.
It's like, it doesn't matter if this happened this way really in history, because there was no real history behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you were talking about Boyds Maneuver theory. How does that work in relation to Warline itself? How does Warline explore that theory and make it more understandable for the gamer?
Gotcha. So thumbnail sketch, the theory itself, for those who are not aware of what that is, at the highest level, it's a doctrine that posits that rapidity, shock, and disruption are more efficient and effective than a classical attrition warfare model. So attrition being thrown with as much firepower as possible. Very high level, right? And so Warline is modeled in a manner that allows you to interact with what Boyd calls the OODA cycle, the OODA cycle. So that's observe, orient, decide, and act. And the reason that's an important piece of the model is because it's positing that anyone who can compress a time cycle further is going to gain an advantage in combat. So if I can perform more actions quicker than you, then I'm going to outpace you, which means all of the decisions that you make subsequently are based on decisions I'm making. So essentially you're playing catch up. Instead of actively moving towards your target, you're now trying to chase me down.
You're reacting rather than responding.
You're reacting rather than responding. And so in the Warline model, it works on a very elegant system where each unit, it's model is battalion scale. Each unit has two values that are most important to this part of the model, and that is the arms and the magic reserve is what it's called. It's essentially action points.
Okay.
And so it's an inverse relationship. The heavier the unit, the fewer action points they have.
Makes sense.
And so you can really get in there and feel how a light unit, who is very weak, it doesn't hit hard, it's very fragile, but it's got the one, for example, has 7 action points by default. You can explore how pushing that thing into opponent's territory, while you're not going to be doing much damage, you can discover how much or how effective it is to disrupt the enemy's plan, right? So if I drive into your territory, your advancement is now adjusted, right? You have to adjust your advancement because there are outposts in the game that I can actually use infiltration tactics to bust out there and get into the outpost and threaten your outpost. If I take both your outposts, then I'm victorious. You have no means to sustain or command your army anymore.
Yeah.
So push into your territory, and instead of now advancing these 3 that you had planned, you've got to dedicate at least one of them to turn around and come back and deal with that. So you have to adjust. And again, so it's all about me forcing you and manipulating your decisions. So shocking, disrupting, and forcing you to play my game. Through that.
Sure. And maneuver warfare, great example of that. Blitzkrieg 39, Poland. Germany was like, hey, we're coming in, and Poland's like, whoa. So that maneuver warfare is definitely excellent. But again, like you were saying before, it's situational, and that's explored in the game because attrition sometimes is the way to go versus maneuver because, you may be in a very tight environment. Well, you can't maneuver in a tight environment. You have to go with attrition at that point.
Yeah, correct. And in the game, part of this the strategic phase. So it starts at strategic and then scopes down to tactical by the end. But the strategic phase is actually highly interactive planning in which you're actually building out the composition of your army. You're scouting terrain, building out the composition of your army, selecting combat support, establishing the positions of your outpost. But in that army composition, that's where you have that opportunity to truly tinker with that balance. And that's all informed decision making because by that time you've scouted the terrain, you've established your outposts, the field is set. And now how do I balance that army to meet the needs of that? Is attrition better in this situation?
And can you shape it to, well, I want to go in and try to be, go with an attritional thing, attritional outcome. How can I shape the battlefield to do that?
To accomplish that,
Or do I have to adapt my plan and go with maneuver, or versus, which is, it sounds pretty neat. And the interesting thing is it's all tile based, this game. So the tiles are set, you have scenarios that you'll set up historical scenarios.
Well, you can play it in one of 2 ways. The sandbox, just freeform battles, which nothing is defined ahead of time. You define that in the strategic phase at the beginning. So you will scout, you will choose the terrain, you will determine where you intercept the opponent by placing terrain within their territory, so sculpting it. But in the scenario-based play, there's a predefined map and predefined compositions.
Yeah, that's where I was getting, because before you were explaining how, which I think is a really cool thing, is as I explore into your territory, you will decide what tile goes there.
Correct.
I will decide what tile goes there. Rather than just finding it, you are shaping the battlefield as a defender to where you're going to let this guy come to fight you. Both sides are doing this. So it's kind of neat because obviously if I want to be the brawling style, I want to set it to be that attritional, and if somebody else wants to be the maneuver, they're going to try to set it that way. So it's, how does that, do you ever run into a situation when you're playing that where you have players that stalemate a little bit? What pushes the player to continue going forward rather than like turtling, for example? Is that that's a valid tactic in some games. How is that not a valid tactic here?
So there's a number of ways. One of the most poignant ways is there are 5 different victory conditions, and I know there are other games with that, but like these are modeled to basically deal with all cases of, well, I could effectively defeat you if I did this, but I could also effectively defeat you if I did this, or I could effectively defeat you with this. So turtling might protect some units, but there are other avenues you can take to go fill your prison with units. You can take units prisoners. You can go the outpost route, right? I can go cut off your ability to command and supply, so I'll just go sneak in and destroy both your outposts. I can so there's Star, which is take the outpost. There's the attrition model, which is overpower. That's just slaughter 5 of the opponents. And then you can hold 3 prisoners to win by shackle. And then blunt is rendering the opponent impotent. So if I can make it so that you have no capability to advance towards victory now or in the future, and I can, then I'm victorious in that manner. So it's very difficult to find an avenue of making it impossible for the unit to be effective against you.
I mean, it sounds like you had used this term before. It sounds very sandboxy.
It's very sandboxy.
There's a lot of, it's not like a rigid, defined game that you see with a lot of other games. Okay, well, there's scenarios, like you said, and there's scenario generator you were showing me where people could share scenarios that you've created online. But that sandbox environment where you can explore all different aspects of maneuver warfare and in a fantasy setting. But how does it play solitaire? Can you play it solitaire both sides, or is there a solo system, anything like that planned?
So there is a dedicated solo system. I'll go into that in a bit, but you can also it's very manageable as a play both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played up to this point. I mean, we're in this game for almost 4 years. I've played hundreds of games
Yeah.
because I find it interesting. I mean, just in wargaming in general, it's something
play
I like
both sides.
to do.
Yeah.
And it's very manageable because it's low rules overhead, high complexity, low complication. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's easy to manage all that stuff. And there's only 6 counters per side. They're huge counters, but there's only 6 per side.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really fun to play both sides. But dedicated solo is actually a different game mode altogether. So
Okay.
instead of writing an AI or something that tries to feel like an opponent, it is pseudo scenario based, where the field is set and you're given a goal and you're given a number of turn cycles to accomplish that goal. So
Okay.
the enemy will never react. But the coolest thing about that is it gives you the opportunity. So that they're set up to encourage you to explore tactics that you might not otherwise realize are even there.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
So
You're pushing without, you're pushing without pushing. I mean, you're prompting the gamer to explore different things that they may not have considered before. I like the sound of that. Now, as far as the design of this, what is the impetus of this design? Where did this come from? And as far as you wanting to make a board game, what was the spark to making a board game?
So to making a board game in general, or this specific one?
Specific board game.
So professionally, I do software, and we have multiple verticals. One of them is in the DoD space, and so a few years back, we were doing a proposal for a SIBR, a small business innovation and research. So privately funded, military, small, like really exploratory, weird software kind of stuff to gain advantages, right?
Yeah.
And in that, I was doing research for that particular SIBR, and that's when I came across the Boyds theory, the maneuver warfare theory, which I'd never been aware of prior.
Really? Okay.
So I have no idea why, but I just got sucked in. I'm like, this is so fascinating. Not only because of the interesting detail that goes into this doctrine, but again, that argument of like, man, you are really trying to like shift decades worth of training and doctrine. It's like, so this is going to take forever. Good luck.
Well, the funny thing is, some people will say that, there's new ideas that come out all along. It's just, or are they just changes on old ideas? But either way, warfare is the same now as it was 10,000 years ago. The only thing that's different is we've gone from just sticks and stones and clubs to forward from swords and archery to
UAVs now.
Now, yeah, we're over the horizon. We're from space, cyber, all that stuff. So it does change warfare in a lot of ways, because you may be able to really cripple or halt the employment of different types of conventional forces by hitting them cyber or hitting them from space. So there is a new dimension now to explore.
Correct.
So that's pretty cool. And in this game, you're doing this in a fantasy. You were saying before that you can do modern, you can do current, you can do historical, you can also do sci-fi. So there's a lot of versatility to the series, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that is one of my main goals is to make this a platform and not just a game. So,
and you have all that in line. So hopefully next time this goes on Kickstarter, or if you find a publisher. So publishers, if you're looking to get a really cool game, you don't have to necessarily be a war game publisher. You can be a Euro game publisher too, or do both. Uva, I'm talking to you. So come out and check this game out. You've been to a couple of conventions. If not, reach out to Justin and talk to him about his game. It is a really cool game. And like I said, this prototype is not a prototype. This is a finished game. Gorgeous art, gorgeous production quality, and the rules definitely seem very easy to grok. It seems like it's a really cool game. So it's got a really broad appeal, and I really hope that you guys give it a look, give it some support. And Justin, wish you nothing but the best of luck with this game, because I think this is really going to take off.
I really appreciate it, Merce.
Hey, thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with me. And that's all we got with Justin today. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.